welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm the Board Game Captain, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Bestiary 2. Now, before I get started with this, I want to do a quick little bit of shameless self-promotion because I've got some of my merch here from over my Teespring store that is role-playing game themed. And first up, I've got my mug I'm drinking out of here that says "Fill her up and let's roll," and the O in roll is a D20 on the back. We have 2d6 rolling, and it says the Board Game Captain. And I'm also wearing one of the shirts from my Teespring store, which says, "Hey, good looking, come to this dungeon often." And now you can get these in tons of different colors over my Teespring store, along with other shirts, mugs, and stickers. Check it out. There's a link in the description down below. So to start off this review, I want to give a big thank you to Paizo for sending me this review copy of the Pathfinder Bestiary 2 for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Now, I'm going to talk about what kind of stuff is in here, what sort of things really caught my attention. I'm going to do some comparing and contrasting to Bestiary 1, and I'm going to talk about, who should buy this, why you should buy Bestiary 2. So, to start with, now, Bestiary 1, the Pathfinder Bestiary, has a lot of the very basic monsters in it, the standard stuff that you as a game master are going to want here, there, and everywhere. So you've got things like giants, you've got standard undead, vampires, werewolves, you've got angels, archons, and aeons, you've got demons, daemons, and devils, you've got trolls, you've got goblins, you've got minotaurs. It's a lot of the basic stuff. Now, this is a really well done book. But one of my minor complaints I had when I reviewed it was that there could have been a little more unique stuff in it. There's a few unique monsters in here, but I felt like I wanted more to differentiate it from just the standard fantasy fare. So now, how does Bestiary 2 hold up to that? So first things first, I've got a bunch of notes here so I don't forget the things I want to talk about. So the first thing you've got in Pathfinder Bestiary 2 is you've got tons of new varieties of these old types of creatures again. So you do have lots of new angels, aeons, and archons. You've got lots of new dragons, dinosaurs, and giants. You've got lots of new demons, daemons, and devils. But some of them in particular, some of these new varieties of older stuff really do stand out to me and call my attention. So I want to draw attention to a handful of these things. I'm going to be throwing pictures of them up as I talk about them. Now, one new undead that really drew my attention because it is like the stuff of horror movies and nightmares is the Attic Whisperer. So this is this undead that is made up of like odds and ends and has built itself a new body, but it is basically a reanimated undead body made by the spirit of a child who died due to like abandonment or neglect, and they call out to you with the child's voice and lure you in and then steal your breath. I mean, this is an amazingly well done new type of undead that really drew my attention and made me go, holy crud, no, scratch that. I must run an encounter with these things in like an abandoned building at some point because they are amazing. The next new type of an older variety of monster is that I really want to draw attention to is the Marsh Giant. Now, the reason I want to draw attention to the Marsh Giant is he's part of a trend in this book of expanding on the mythos monsters, because the Marsh Giant is essentially a giant deep one, right down to the fact that when they talk about Marsh Giant society and religion, they mention that they are very commonly worshipping Dagon and Cthulhu. Now, in regard to some other mythos monsters that made it into here, just a couple of my favorites, they have both the Hounds of Tindalos and the Lang Spiders have both made it into the Pathfinder Bestiary 2. So I do appreciate this new variety of giant that also crosses over with the mythos monsters as well as the new varieties of mythos monsters. Now, there are a bunch of new dragons in here. There are these primal dragons that when using magic, instead of using the divine or arcane, they use primal magic, more elemental type stuff. And they're kind of cool. They're not bad. But the dragon that really drew my attention, that was the most interesting, was the Zomak. So the Zomak is like a plant dragon. It's essentially a big plant creature in the shape of a dragon, but it actually does count as a dragon. And it's sort of like a elemental defender of the forest type, which, we have had those before, but the way this particular one is done, being a plant dragon, I found really interesting. I really liked the look and theme of this monster. Now, I also want to just generally say there's lots of really cool new giant bugs, lots of new giant bugs of all different kinds, new giant scorpions, new types of giant centipedes, giant spiders, giant solifuges or camel spiders, which just regular sized camel spiders are the stuff of nightmares, so those are pretty awesome. There's also new types of werebeasts in here. We have both were-boars and were-tigers, which is great. Then, moving on, we've got a bunch of stuff based on urban legends, and these are fantastic. So the first one I want to draw attention to is the Chupacabra. There is an entry in here for the old goat sucker. And he's done right. The Chupacabra is done how the Chupacabra should be. He's small, he's sneaky, he comes in and attacks livestock. But then they also have larger, more ferocious versions and even winged versions. So the Chupacabra is great, and I love that they included it. Next we have the Sandpoint Devil. Now the Sandpoint Devil is, I guess Sandpoint is reference to a specific area in the Pathfinder universe, but based on his description and look and everything, it very much made me think of the Jersey Devil, and I really think the Sandpoint Devil is based on the Jersey Devil. So again, another urban legend myth turned into a entry in Pathfinder Bestiary 2, that I'm very fond of this trend. The next one we've got is the Water Orm. Now the Water Orm is a sea monster, but when you read closer into it, it's specifically a lake monster, I should say, because he doesn't happen in the ocean. And from all the descriptions of the lake monster, right down to the fact that the people living in the area of the lake that your particular water orm inhabits will only see him on occasion because they tend to hibernate for long periods of time on the bottom and give them funny little local cutesy names. This is a reference to the urban legends of various real-world lake monsters like Nessie and Champy, and I think this is great. So basically, you can make the Loch Ness Monster, or your variation thereof, in the game of Pathfinder with the Water Orm. The next one we have here is the Mandragora. Now, this one is less of an urban legend and more of an actual myth, of course. The way they did it here is very creepy because once uprooted, it goes around looking to drain people's blood, and it has an insatiable thirst for blood. Very creepy, great artwork, and really holds true to the myth in as far as I'm concerned. After that, we have the Scarecrow. Now, of course, the urban legends and pop culture references to animated scarecrows attacking and killing people are far too numerous to name, and I especially like that their version specifically can reference either having a sackcloth head or a jack-o'-lantern, which adds in even more things I could think of. I love the Scarecrow in here. This is another great urban legend-based monster added to the group of urban legend-based monsters. Now, next I want to draw attention to, there were a bunch I noticed of pop culture-based monsters. Monsters based on characters or creatures, either from books or movies or TV shows, etc. So I'm going to run down some of my favorites that really drew my attention. So first off, Grendel is in here, as in the Grendel, as in Beowulf. He's in here and he's done like he really is, except there's an interesting twist, which I don't want to give away in case you wind up playing a campaign where you have to fight Grendel. But the fact that they made Grendel in here and he's a unique monster, a singular, it's his name, it's not a type of monster. I love that. I could see myself running several games where the players are hired, like Beowulf was, to slay Grendel, and that would be fantastic. The next one is we have the Jabberwock. Now, the Jabberwock, of course, based on the Jabberwocky from Lewis Carroll's writings, is a giant serpentine monster. In this, they make him an actual dragon, but a dragon from the first world, and not really very fond of the true dragons, the chromatic and metallic dragons that you find in Galarian. But the Jabberwock is awesome. It is a great reference to, the poem Jabberwocky, as well as I believe he showed up in Through the Looking Glass of Lewis Carroll's works. So yeah, that is awesome. The next one on the list is one that is a reference to 50s monster movies, and it is one of my favorite 50s sci-fi monster movies. So the creature is called the Moonflower. But I started reading the description, because I read this book cover to cover. I read all the descriptions. And I'm reading the Moonflower, and it comes on down in like meteor showers and seeds that can survive re-entry through the atmosphere. They grow up, and then they can uproot themselves and walk around and attack and eat people. These are Triffids. I was immediately getting flashbacks to watching Day of the Triffids as a kid. I love that movie. Day of the Triffids is a classic. If you haven't checked it out, I definitely recommend checking it out. And immediately I was like, oh my God, I could see myself running a one-off game for a group where, rather than being total apocalypse, they could do, they're defending a town from an army of Triffids that have rose up because of a recent meteor showers where their seeds were spread all around the area. The next is the Morlocks. Now, the Morlocks, of course, are from the H.G. Wells novel The Time Machine, which is actually one of my favorite H.G. Wells novels. And, of course, also the film version, see the original, of The Time Machine. The Morlocks are evolved humans that live underground and eat people and like messing around with ancient machinery, just like they were in the books, just like they were in the movie. So yeah, Morlocks, another great addition. Next one is another 50s monster movie that I'm a huge fan of. And okay, so oozes. We all know oozes are based on the Blob. Slight variations here and there, but none of them ever really fully capture the horrific nature of the Blob, continuing to grow, getting gigantic, becoming incredibly difficult to stop. Well, they made an actual ooze that's really the Blob, and it is called the Carnivorous Blob. It comes down on a meteorite from outer space, can hibernate for a long period of time, and then when it attacks, it can become absolutely enormous, swallowing entire towns and becoming a major, major monster to stop or destroy. I love that they actually made an ooze that really full on is a reference to the Blob. Because you know what? The original Blob and the remake from the 80s are both awesome, and I would love to run a one-off Blob game. So that is really pretty fantastic. Next, I just want to reference some, in my opinion, very unique monsters that I feel are in here. Things that defied my expectations. Things that really made me want to look more deeply into them and figure out how to use them. So the first one I want to draw attention to is the Drainberry bush. So when I first saw the picture of the Drainberry bush, I was thinking it's a carnivorous plant. It's going to attack people. It's going to try to eat people. And that's not what an encounter with the Drainberry bush is at all. They're more like merchants than killer plants. It's very interesting. So the Drainberry bush will attack small animals and drain their blood to be able to make their berries. And then their berries are used sort of like healing potions. If you eat them, you will regain hit points. Now, you can fight a Drainberry bush and try to steal some of these from them. But when they meet you, their initial thought is not to attack you. So Drainberry bushes are obsessed with artistic or beautiful or interesting looking things, and they would like to barter with you, trade you some of their berries for something you have that's pretty, and they communicate with you telepathically. They're really much more like merchants, and this is interesting. This was a really interesting creature, one that really, because I mean, there's a bunch of carnivorous plants in here, like the Moonflower I already talked about. So when I read the Drainberry bush, this was like, oh, that was not what I was expecting at all, and it's awesome. I want to throw this in the middle of a game somewhere. Okay, so the next one I want to draw attention to is the Isquilug. All right, so this thing, I want to draw attention to this because this thing is the stuff of nightmares. It is this big, odd, bulbous creature with like egg sacs all over its head. And in the middle of the fight, the Iskalug can do a spray of the larva from inside the egg sacs on its head all over you as an attack. And if it hurts you, you could possibly contract the Iskalug disease, which means the young will burrow into you, and if you succumb to the disease, they will turn you into another Iskalug to help further spread their species, to propagate the Iskalug species. This thing is horrifying, it is disgusting, and it is wonderful as a monster to show up in a dungeon or a wilderness area. Yeah, I love it. I think it's fantastic. Now, the next one is a new group. Rather than a single monster, I want to reference it. This is a group of fiends, a new group of fiends called the Clipoth. Now, the Clipoth are apparently the original denizens of the Abyss. They are referenced in the book as being older than all mortal life and even older than most immortal life. And they lived in the Abyss before demons got there. And now what happened was the demons, being created by the souls of mortals that were damned to the Abyss, overran the Clipoth. And now the Clipoth are living in the depths of the Abyss, and they are trying to hatch a plan to basically wipe out all mortal life so that mortals dying will stop increasing the ranks of demons so they can take the Abyss back over. They're really interesting and different. I like them as a new group of fiends. Very cool stuff. There is another new group of fiends from the Shadow Realm, which is another awesome pop culture reference that I really wanted to draw attention to, and it is the Velstral, or Velstral. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. Now, they are something about these guys. So I started looking at them, and they are fiends that are 100% obsessed with sadism and masochism. They love doing horrible things to their own bodies while also doing horrible things to other people's bodies. They are explorers in the further realms of experience and pain. Yeah, they're Cenobites. These are Cenobites, like from the movie Hellraiser. If you are a Hellraiser fan, these guys are great. The only thing they didn't give them is they didn't give them something like a puzzle box to summon them. But other than that, and you could totally do that yourself, they very much seem to take a lot of inspiration from Cenobites. There's also some of them that are not quite Cenobites or a little different and might take inspiration from other horror movies and other IPs, but I would say the main inspiration for the Velstral are Cenobites, and that is awesome. I think they're great. I can't wait to use them myself. And then I want to, one last new thing I want to make a reference to is this great big alien monstrosity came from another planet. I love all these alien creatures. The Froghemoth. So he is a gigantic alien frog-like monster that attacks creatures. And he is part of a large group of creatures in here that are alien from other worlds that are either animals or plants, or in some cases intelligent beings with strange motivations that we cannot understand. And I love all of these new alien monstrosities that they put in here with their strange machinations or just strange behaviors because they are animals from another world. Okay, so there's tons of stuff in this book. If you can't tell that I am raving about it, yeah, I'm raving about this book. This book is great. Absolutely fantastic. Now, Bestiary 1 versus Bestiary 2. So here's the thing. You have to get Bestiary 1 because of it having all the very common monsters. But now that you got that out of the way, this one is more fun. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. You've got tons of stuff that are references to urban legends, tons of stuff that are references to movies and books, tons of just amazingly inventive and interesting creatures in here. I think they did a fantastic job on Bestiary 2. I didn't even get to talk about a lot of other things. This video would have gone on too long if I wanted to talk about all the various creatures in here, because there are some as an example, some very bizarre and horrific fae creatures in here that are the stuff of nightmares. This book is jam-packed with amazing new variety of monsters. There are tons of them in here that not only was I like, okay, this one I would love to drop in a game, this one I would love to make a single game around, this one I would love to make a multi-session arc around, and this one I'd love to run an entire campaign around. I mean, there's tons of stuff in here that is absolutely fantastic. And as I was reading through this, I mean, it's just awesome. I love it even more than the original Bestiary. Again, even though the original Bestiary is necessary, I like this Bestiary 2 more because there's just so much cool and awesome stuff in here. I didn't even get to talk about the Serpent Folk, which the Serpent Folk are awesome, but I really have stretched this pretty far for just a review of a book expansion to a role-playing game. I don't want to get too long with this, so we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty. Now, you've heard all my ravings about it. I don't really have any downsides for Bestiary 2. The only minor gripe I had on Bestiary 1 has been corrected, in my opinion, for Bestiary 2, with all of this new and different and unique and imaginative stuff and all these great pop culture references. So I'm going to give Pathfinder Bestiary 2 10 out of 10 stars. This book is fantastic. So first off, if you play Pathfinder and you are the kind of person like me who just loves to read about all the monsters, buy this book. This book is fantastic. 2, if you're game mastering Pathfinder, you gotta buy this book. This book is fantastic. Oh my god, it's great. So, I mean, that's where I'm at with this stuff. I really do enjoy this. I really think this is and I didn't even get to talk about, you know what? I didn't even get to talk about the production. I don't want to gloss by this too much because Paizo is up there as one of the companies that does some of the best production of any of the role-playing game companies out there. Full color printing, color on every page, thick, beautiful hardcover, old school thread binding. This is an amazingly produced book that feels incredibly sturdy, durable, with beautiful artwork that's going to last you for the entire time that Pathfinder is in existence, and probably long beyond that. You'll probably still have this book in your collection like 20 years down the road, how well it's put together. So yeah, all this goes into my rating of a 10 out of 10. I absolutely love this book, and I highly recommend it to you. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns on the Pathfinder Bestiary 2, or on maybe some more questions or concerns on the comparison between the Pathfinder Bestiary and Pathfinder Bestiary 2, feel free to put them in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this review and you'd like to see me do more reviews of expansions to role-playing games or other role-playing game products like this, be sure to give this video a like, share it on all forms of social media, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Kaptain. That's Kaptain spelled with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.